Where did I leave off? Howdy, y'all. Random lady here, and I was in the middle of making a video. It ended up being way too long, so I saved it for this video. Time for another story of my life. And this video is Tales of the Group Homes. So when you see this next clip, I will already be in the middle of talking. But it should give you some information. Thanks so much, and have a good one. The job that I had this last time was working with people with developmental disabilities. And probably if you're subscribed to my channel, or if you just look at my channel, if you dig through far enough, you might find a few videos of me with some of those people while I'm playing my ukulele. And I have funny stories. Sadly, there's a few of them that involve poop. And I don't know if you've seen my video, Squishies, Slime, and Poop. But you might want to look that up. And you'll know my feelings about the poop emoji and why I can't stand it. Some of the things, like one of the houses I worked at, the people were elderly, and so we'd have these old ladies on walkers, and they had to exercise every day. That was one of the requirements, and I'm thinking, these little old ladies, just leave them alone. But they made the staff encourage these women to walk with their walkers so that they would stay flexible and everything. And so what we did was we did races. And we'd set up our little elderly person, and we'd set two walkers next to each other. Because we had this big long hall in the house, where it was a big straight long hall. And it was wide, you know, because some people are in wheelchairs. And so we'd set these two ladies up next to each other, or sometimes a man. And we'd say, on your mark, get set, go! And they'd race very slowly. But they'd be looking at each other. And if one would get ahead of the other, you're really slow. And it was just, it was hilarious. And it was a lot of fun. They enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. It was fun. Now, one of the houses I worked at, I had this one young lady named Patty who was just hilarious. She was a handful too. She just, whew, sometimes she was a mess. She didn't walk. She's wheelchair bound. But she got into everything, so we had to keep an eye on her all the time. And one day I was taking her to a doctor appointment, an eye doctor appointment. And the thing about that doctor's office, which I really hated, was that the walls were so narrow, and they just weren't handicap accessible. It was horrible. And I'm thinking, you have all these patients that are on walkers and in wheelchairs, and you've got these narrow walls. But you know what you gonna do? And so the lobby was just plain full. It just, you know, there was no more room, and here I am with Patty in her wheelchair. And she had an extra wide wheelchair because she was a little extra wide. And the eye doctor is walking along next to the nurse, and they're getting ready to approach. They're getting ready to approach Patty, and the eye doctor is talking to the nurse, and he's got a patient chart like this. So he can't see below this chart. He can't see his stomach, his legs, his feet, because he's like this and talking to the nurse. And he walks past Patty, and she reaches out and grabs his crotch and doesn't let go. She hangs on for dear life. So here I am trying to pry her fingers off this man's junk. And she's giggling the whole time. She knew good and well what she was doing. It was awful. awfully funny. Now, there's another story where at one of the other houses I worked at, it was around Christmas time, and we had worked all day with our clients, I guess you could call them, our consumers, and we made Christmas cookies with them. Yay, Christmas cookie day, and we had them all set out, and they usually had a big kitchen, and they also had a big dining room with several tables and several chairs around it and everything, so there's plenty of room for everybody, because this particular house had like 10 people living in it, and then you've got several staff members to take care of them. So we just had a big day of making Christmas cookies. We'd roll out the dough. We made the dough from scratch. We, cookie cutted them and decorated them. We had all these Christmas cookies, and wasn't just for them to eat, but they were going to be giving them out as gifts to their family members. And we're like, we got to store these, but we have to hide them, because we had one guy who lived there, Terry, and that man could eat. Oh my gosh. And I don't know where he put it, because he was not a fat guy. He was very tall, but he wasn't a fat guy, but he could eat nonstop if we didn't stay on top of him about it. So we're like, we have got to hide these cookies somewhere that Terry won't think to find them. So we're like, the oven, a perfect place. Terry is afraid of the oven. He'll never go to the oven. We're going to hide these cookies in the oven, and then we'll let each shift change know the Christmas cookies are in the oven. So we let Miss Sheba, our graveyard shift lady, we let her know the Christmas cookies are in the oven. She's like, got it. And that morning she was getting ready to make breakfast for all the people before they woke up. She forgot about the Christmas cookies and turned on the oven. She set the cookies on fire in the oven. Thankfully, it had snowed the night before. There was a lot of snow. And so Sheba and whoever she was working with was able to grab those cookie sheets and throw them in the snow and get some of that fire out. But it ruined the stove. Had to get a new stove. And the alarm went off. It was crazy because, when we do fire drills in those group homes, it's just awful. So here, it's not just a fire drill. There really was a fire. And you're trying to get people on walkers and in wheelchairs out in a hurry. Really? Really? But yeah, true story. So we've got people. And we're pushing people in wheelchairs, and yeah, and then other people freaking out and wouldn't move at all. So yeah, it's that job. Let me tell you, give people credit, because it is not easy. People talk about, all these people who do abuse in nursing homes. Yes, there are those few nursing homes that do that, but the people actually do the job. It is a hard job. Let me tell you, it is not an easy job. Give those people props. Because there are a lot of them that do an awesome job. Anyway, I'll get off that soapbox. There was another story, the same job, where, and this isn't really my story, but these are a couple of my coworkers that they were taking, one of the ladies, her name was Marie, to a doctor appointment. And she was such a handful and such a mess that it took 2 people to work with her. So they get her loaded up into the wheelchair van, and they're getting ready to head out to the doctor appointment. They're driving, and the thing about these wheelchair vans is that there are fire extinguishers in there. And this particular one, the way it was mounted kind of under the driver's seat, and it has a pin in it. And what you do to work a fire extinguisher is you take the pin out and then you squeeze the handle. Well, with vibrations over time, the pin started shaking out of place. It's mounted under the driver's seat. The driver's seat bounces. So this pin falls out of its place, and then the driver's seat bounced on the handle. And white fire extinguisher powder stuff fills up the whole front half of the van where the the driver was. Marie was driving, and Adrian was sitting next to her in the front seat, and Marie is mounted in between the two seats, kind of back with her in her wheelchair. And thankfully Marie was back, so she didn't get most of it, and Adrian threw her jacket over Marie real fast when it happened, so Marie didn't get a lot of it, but it was just so funny. Yeah, so clouds just filled up that driver's seat. Now, there are some really gross stories that come from working at the group homes. And one of them was my friend Robin was talking about how she had this one guy. He liked to lay in bed at night and pick his nose and flick his boogers. And that man must have known how to really flick them boogers, because one of her jobs, at least once a month, was to get up on top of a ladder with a putty knife and scrape boogers off the ceiling. And she would tell herself, at least I'm getting paid. And it's those kind of weird jobs that we would have to do because we're working with people. For me, I have some alarming poop stories. You know what? I'm going to put a description down in my, or put a link down in my description about my Squishies, slime, and poop, if you want to look at that anyway. And it talks a little bit why I don't like poop. But here's some other reasons why. That poop emoji just gets on my nerves, because poop is not cute. There was this one guy at this one group home I worked at, and he was a stinker, let me tell you. He would get into trouble if he could, and he liked to initiate new staff members. Of course, all of them like to do that. What am I saying? And I was new. And I thought, oh, I can handle this guy, you know. And you have to help them shower, and some of them you have to help change their clothes. Some of them you help to help feed them, things like that. Well, this guy, because he'd have seizures, he would have to have someone monitor him while he's in the shower. He could shower himself. He just needed to be monitored in the off chance he would have a seizure in the shower. This was actually a pretty common thing that a lot of people with developmental disabilities, depending on their diagnosis, could risk having a seizure in the shower. And so he's thinking, oh, I got the new girl. I'll just initiate her in. So he takes off all his clothes. And listen, when you do a job like that, you're not alarmed to see naked people. I think it's more like with doctors and nurses, and they just think it's just a body. And so to see these people naked just did not alarm me. It was uncomfortable when I first started the job, but then it was just normal after that. And so he takes off all his clothes. I don't think anything about it. And he goes, I have to go poop first. That's the way he talked, and I'm not trying to make fun of him. It's just that's the way he talked. And I said, well, go right ahead. Sit on the toilet. I'll wait for you. And he sits on the toilet, and I'm not standing there watching him. I go out of the room, and I wait until he's done. And then he says, I'm done now. And I said, okay, you know, well, cool. Let's get you in the shower. And he goes, oh, I'm not done. I go, well, sit back down on the toilet. And he goes, I can't. And I said, why? And he goes, I'm already pooping. And he starts walking around, pooping all over the place. I said, what are you doing? Go sit on the toilet. I can't. And I said, why? And he's like, because I'm already pooping. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's walking around. He's getting poop on the carpet of his bedroom. He's getting poop all over the bathroom floor. I said, at least get in the shower. Let's get you rinsed off. He goes in the shower, and he's just pooping all over the shower. There's poop all over the toilet seat. I mean, there's just poop everywhere. And it was just a mess trying to clean him and the whole place up. Not fun. If you have a pet, you can understand how gross it is to be cleaning out pee and poop stains in the carpet or puke stains. Imagine how it is for a large human. This guy was really tall, really big guy. And on that line, the guy, Terry, that I mentioned that we would hide the food from, or at least those Christmas cookies we hid from, Terry liked to go bowling. And we would take some of our people to go do some bowling once a month, I think it was, or maybe once every other week, doesn't matter. And we were getting everybody to climb into the van, and I see this big wad of poop stuck to Terry's shoe. I said, "Oh my gosh, Terry, let's go get this off your shoe. I can't let you climb in the van with this on your foot." And he's like, no, I can go bowling. Again, I'm not making fun of these people. I'm just giving you a picture of how they talked and how difficult it is to work with them sometimes. I'm like, "Terry, all we have to do is see the grass over there. Let's go over the grass and kind of scrape your shoe into the grass and it'll get the poop off of it." "No, go bowling. So I'm like trying not to be rough, but trying to wrestle this man out of the van before he sticks that poopy shoe into the van. And then he's like, no bowling. I go in the house. And he starts marching towards the house. And I go, "You don't have to. You can still go bowling, Terry. We just have to get that off your shoe." And he's rushing up to the door. And one of the staff members opened the door. And she's like, "What's going on?" I said, "Look, he's got poop on his shoe. Don't let him go in the house with that poop on his shoe. He's going to get it everywhere." She's like, "Oh my goodness, Terry, let's go in the grass. Let's get this off your shoe before you come inside." He went ballistic. We wouldn't let him in the van. We wouldn't let him in the house, and he did not understand. So finally, and I'm like, I had to be there at a certain time for the bowling. So thankfully, my coworker, she rips his shoe off, lets him in the house, and runs over and scrapes it in the grass, and then takes his shoe and goes and washes his shoe. And yeah, so speaking of poop on shoes, how about poop in shoes? At another group home that I worked at, there was this guy named Daryl. Sweet guy. Sweet. But, he had a developmental disabilities, so sometimes he could be hard to work with. And he was another one I had to monitor when he was in the shower, because he also was prone to seizures in the shower. However, really weird on his protocol, he could be left alone to get dressed. So I had to be there to monitor him while he's taking his shower. And one of the things we had to do was wash their back. And if they needed help washing their hair, we'd help wash their hair. So I did those things for Daryl. And then he's all done. And I said, "You ready to get dressed?" He's like, "Yeah." He's a sweet little guy. And I said, "Okay. You got your clothes together. You got your socks. You got your shoes. All right. You ready to get dressed?" He's like, "Okay." So I step out of the bathroom. And he's getting dressed that I know of. And after a while he comes out and he's dressed. And he's got one shoe on his foot and he's holding the other shoe in his hand. And I said, "Daryl, what's the matter?" He goes, "There's something in my shoe." And I look at his shoe and I go, "Oh my gosh, it's poop." And I knew it wasn't there before he was getting dressed. I said, "Did you poop in your shoe?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Why did you poop in your shoe?" He goes, "I had to poop real bad." I'm like, "The toilet was just right there. Why didn't you sit down on the toilet?" And he goes, "Because I had my shoe in my hand." So he thought, it's more convenient. I'll just throw my shoe back there and poop in my shoe. Guess who got to clean that up? Me. So anyway, those are some of the funny stories of me working in a group home. I'm sure there's like tons more stories. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. And if you've made it this far with me, I appreciate it. I really want to hear any funny stories that you've had on your job. And if you could just type them down in the comments below, I'd appreciate it. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to read your stories. And do me a favor, let me know what's going on. If you like this video, click the like button. And if you want to know what's going on, hit the subscribe, hit that little bell, and that'll let you know what's going on. Because I put videos out around every Monday. It's not always consistent, but it's usually on Mondays. And that way you can know when you get notifications, for my videos. I thank you so much. I appreciate you. Y'all have a great and wonderful day, okay? Bye. She's like, really? Really? Stuff. It's just really flick them boogers because poop is not cute. I'm already pooping. Just poop everywhere. No, no.